Welcome to this video, as today we take a look at HMS Prince of Wales, bringing you a pretty astonishing story of perhaps one of the most iconic and legendary battleships that ever graced the fleet of Her Majesty's naval service. This was the majestic vessel that served valiantly during World War II and has, without a doubt, been etched into the annals of maritime history. From the pivotal roles it played in some key battles to impressive technical specifications, come along as we now look to find out much more regarding its triumphs and tribulations. This is the Animated General, and in this video, we go back in time to find the remarkable story of HMS Prince of Wales. HMS Prince of Wales, a battleship crafted by the Royal Navy at the Camel Laird shipyard in Birkenhead, may have had a brief stint of active service, but her impact was profound. Even before she was fully outfitted, she faced adversity in August 1940 when German aircraft attacked and inflicted damage upon her. Despite her short tenure, she played pivotal roles in key battles of World War II. Notably, during the Battle of the Denmark Strait in May 1941, she engaged the German battleship Bismarck, landing 3 decisive hits that compelled the Bismarck to retreat for repairs, disrupting her raiding mission. Prince of Wales later escorted convoys to Malta, braving Italian air attacks in the Mediterranean. In her final mission, she sought to intercept Japanese troop convoys off the coast of Malaya as part of Force Z. Tragically, Japanese aircraft sank her on December 10, 1941, just 2 days after the attack on Pearl Harbor, alongside her companion, the battlecruiser HMS Repulse. This event marked a significant shift in naval warfare, as the Prince of Wales and Repulse became the only capital ships to be solely sunk by air power at sea, highlighting the evolving role of aircraft in naval combat. Today, the upside-down wreck of the Prince of Wales rests in 223 feet of water near Kuantan in the South China Sea. Regrettably, in the modern era, her wreck fell victim to illegal salvaging by scrap metal dealers, a disrespectful act toward a vessel with such a storied history. The Washington Naval Treaty of 1922 aimed to rein in a burgeoning arms race among major powers like Britain, Japan, France, Italy, and the United States. It set limits on the number and tonnage of capital ships each nation could construct, capping them at 35,000 tons. Although these restrictions eased somewhat with the Treaty of London in 1930, concerns arose by the mid-1930s as Japan and Italy withdrew from the agreements. This left Britain uneasy about the adequacy of its naval strength, prompting the Admiralty to commission a new battleship class, the King George V class. When designing the King George V class battleships, planners had to adhere to the tonnage restrictions while ensuring a formidable armament, primarily featuring 14-inch, 356mm, caliber guns. While these ships were constructed in compliance with the treaties, by the time they were being laid down in 1937, other signatories were no longer bound by the restrictions. Originally intended to be named King Edward VIII, the first ship of the class began construction at Camel Laird shipyard in Birkenhead on January 1, 1937. However, before construction began, King Edward VIII abdicated the throne. The ship wasn't launched until May 3, 1939, and was still undergoing outfitting when the declaration of war in September hastened its completion, along with that of its sister ship, King George V. Delays ensued due to the late delivery of gun mountings, further complicating the outfitting process. In the early days of August 1940, the Prince of Wales found herself under attack by German aircraft while still in a semi-complete state. One bomb, landing between the ship and the wet basin wall, detonated underwater just below the bilge keel, mere feet from the ship's port side and close to the aft group of 5.25-inch guns. The force of the explosion caused the shell plating to buckle over a span of 20 to 30 feet, and the rivets were loosened. This breach allowed a significant amount of water to flood into the port outboard compartments, causing the vessel to list 10 degrees to port. The flooding was severe enough to impede final compartment air tests, and the ship's pumping system was not yet operational. Fortunately, the collective efforts of a local fire company and the shipyard's personnel managed to pump out the water, temporarily alleviating the situation. However, the damage incurred, coupled with issues surrounding the delivery of her main guns and turrets, increased speed to 28 knots, 52 kilometers per hour, and adjusted their course slightly to improve their targeting angle on the German vessels. As weather conditions improved, providing 10-mile, 16 kilometers, visibility, crews were already at their action stations by 5:10, ready for the forthcoming engagement. At 5:37, an enemy contact report was issued, prompting a starboard course change to close the range. Neither the Hood nor the Prince of Wales were in optimal fighting condition. The Hood, designed 25 years prior, lacked adequate decking armor and needed to close the range swiftly to reduce vulnerability to plunging shellfire at longer distances. Having recently undergone overhaul in March, her crew had not been sufficiently retrained. The Prince of Wales, boasting thicker armor, was less susceptible to 15-inch shells beyond 17,000 feet, 5,200 meters, but her crew also lacked proper battle efficiency training. By 5:49, the British ships made their final course adjustment, but their approach was too fine, with the German ships positioned just 30 degrees to starboard. Consequently, the aft turrets of the British ships were unable to fire. With the Prince Eugene trailing the Bismarck, the Prince of Wales and had found themselves slightly forward of the beam, allowing both German vessels to unleash full broadsides. At 5:53, despite seas breaking over their bows, the Prince of Wales initiated fire on the Bismarck from a distance of 26,500 yards, 24,200 meters. However, there was some confusion among the British forces regarding the identity of the enemy ship, leading the Hood to mistakenly open fire on the Prince Eugene just 30 seconds earlier, as the German ships presented similar profiles. The initial shots from the Prince of Wales fell 1,000 yards over their target, as the turret rangefinders were rendered unusable due to spray over the bow, necessitating fire direction from the control tower's 15-foot, 4.6 meters, rangefinders. Despite these challenges, the 6th, 9th, and 13th salvos from the Prince of Wales found their mark, scoring hits on the Bismarck. One shell pierced her bow, causing a significant fuel loss due to saltwater contamination, while another struck below her side armor belt, triggering an explosion that flooded the auxiliary boiler machinery room and led to the shutdown of 2 boilers. These losses played a crucial role in the Bismarck's decision to retreat to port. On the Prince of Wales, the A1 gun ceased fire after the first salvo due to a defect, and sporadic breakdowns persisted until the decision was made to turn away, with the Y turret jamming during the turn. Both German vessels focused their firepower on the Hood, unleashing devastating salvos of 8 and 15-inch shells that ultimately led to her destruction. An 8-inch shell struck the boat deck, hitting a ready service locker for ammunition, igniting a fierce fire that raged above the first superstructure deck. At 5:58, with the range at 16,500 yards, 15,100 meters, the force commander ordered a 20-degree turn to port to widen the distance and enable a full battery of British ships to target the Bismarck. As the maneuver commenced, the Bismarck's 3rd and 4th 4-gun salvos straddled the Hood, with the 5th salvo hitting her directly at 6:01, resulting in a massive explosion. Flames erupted near the Hood's masts, followed by an orange-colored fireball and a massive cloud of smoke that engulfed the ship. From the vantage point of the Prince of Wales, it appeared as though the Hood collapsed amidships, with the bow and stern visibly rising as she rapidly sank. In a bid to avoid colliding with debris, the Prince of Wales executed a sharp starboard turn, inadvertently closing the distance between her and the German ships. In the span of just 4 minutes, the Hood, once the largest battlecruiser in the world, was lost, with 1,419 officers and men perishing, leaving only 3 survivors. Following the Hood's catastrophic explosion at 6:01, the Prince of Wales found herself targeted by intense and accurate fire from the Germans, including 15-inch, 8-inch, and 5.9-inch guns. Unopposed until then, she began a port turn at 5:57, just as the Prince Eugene commenced firing upon her. As the Prince of Wales maneuvered past the wreckage of the Hood, a heavy hit below the waterline was sustained. At 6:02, a 15-inch shell struck the starboard side of the compass platform, causing significant casualties among the personnel stationed there. While the navigating officer was wounded, Captain Leach remained unharmed. The casualties were caused by fragments from the shell's ballistic cap and the material dislodged in its trajectory through the compass platform. Another harrowing moment occurred when a 15-inch diving shell penetrated the ship's side below the armor belt amidships, fortunately failing to explode and coming to rest in the wing compartments on the starboard side of the after boiler rooms. This shell was safely defused when the ship was docked at Rosyth. Deciding to disengage at 6:05, Captain Leach initiated a heavy smokescreen to shield the Prince of Wales's withdrawal. He then radioed Norfolk to report the Hood sinking and rendezvoused with Suffolk, positioning 15 to 17 miles, 24 to 27 kilometers, astern of the Bismarck. despite continued pursuit until 1816, when Suffolk sighted the German battleship at a distance of 22,000 yards, 20,000 meters. The Prince of Wales failed to score hits during subsequent engagements, even firing at extreme ranges of up to 30,300 yards, 27,700 meters. On May 25, after temporarily losing contact with the Bismarck due to poor visibility and an exhaustive 12-hour search, the Prince of Wales set course for Iceland. The engagement had taken a toll, with 13 crew members killed and 9 wounded. In a remarkable discovery on June 6, while undergoing maintenance in dry dock, a hole was found just above the starboard bilge keel. Upon pumping out the inner space, an unexploded shell from the Bismarck was found lodged nose forward, complete with its fuse but lacking a ballistic cap. The shell was safely removed by the bomb disposal officer from HMS Cochrane. Following repairs at Rosyth, the Prince of Wales undertook a significant mission, transporting Prime Minister Winston Churchill across the Atlantic for a clandestine conference with U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt. On August 5, Roosevelt boarded the cruiser USS Augusta from the presidential yacht Potomac. Augusta, accompanied by the cruiser USS Tuscaloosa and 5 destroyers, set sail from Massachusetts to Placentia Bay in Argentia and Newfoundland, arriving on August 7. Meanwhile, the Potomac maintained a decoy role, cruising New England waters to create the impression that the president was still aboard. On August 9, Churchill arrived in the bay aboard the Prince of Wales, escorted by the destroyers HMS Ripley, HMCS Assiniboine, and HMCS Restigouche. At Placentia Bay, Newfoundland, Roosevelt transferred to the destroyer USS McDougall to meet Churchill on board the Prince of Wales. The conference took place from August 10 to 12 aboard the Augusta, culminating in the proclamation of the Atlantic Charter. The Prince of Wales returned to Scapa Flow on August 18, completing its pivotal role in facilitating the historic conference between two world leaders. In September 1941, the Prince of Wales received orders to join Force H in the Mediterranean theater of operations. On September 24, as part of Group 2 under the command of Vice Admiral Alban Curtase, she set sail alongside the battleship Rodney, the cruisers Kenya, Edinburgh, Sheffield, and Euryalus, and 12 destroyers. Their mission was to escort Operation Halberd, a crucial supply convoy from Gibraltar to Malta. The convoy came under attack by Italian aircraft on September 27, prompting the Prince of Wales to engage and successfully shoot down several enemy planes with her 5.25-inch, 133mm, guns. Later that day, reports surfaced indicating the approach of units from the Italian fleet. In response, the Prince of Wales, alongside the Rodney and the aircraft carrier Ark Royal, were dispatched to intercept, but the search yielded no results. Fortunately, the convoy reached Malta unscathed, and the Prince of Wales subsequently returned to Gibraltar before continuing on to Scapa Flow, where she arrived on October 6. On October 25, the Prince of Wales departed from home waters bound for Singapore, accompanied by a destroyer escort. The plan was to meet up with the battlecruiser Repulse and the aircraft carrier Indomitable. However, Indomitable encountered an obstacle when she ran aground off Jamaica a few days later, rendering her unable to continue the journey. Making stops at Freetown and Cape Town in South Africa for refueling and to generate publicity, the Prince of Wales also visited Mauritius and the Maldive Islands along the way. Arriving in Colombo, Ceylon, on November 28, she joined up with the Repulse the following day. On December 2, the fleet docked in Singapore. Subsequently, the Prince of Wales assumed the role of flagship for Force Z, under the command of Admiral Sir Tom Phillips. However, Admiral of the Home Fleet Sir John Tovey expressed reservations about sending any of the new King George V battleships, as he believed they were ill-suited for operations in tropical climates. On December 6, Japanese troop convoys were spotted, signaling the beginning of heightened tensions. 2 days later, Japanese aircraft launched a raid on Singapore. Despite the Prince of Wales's anti-aircraft batteries opening fire, they failed to score any hits or deter the Japanese aircraft. Following a signal from the Admiralty in London instructing the British squadron to commence hostilities, Admiral Phillips, confident in the protective air cover provided by the RAF, set sail that evening. Force Z, comprised of the battleship Prince of Wales, the battlecruiser Repulse, and the destroyers Electra, Express, Tenedos, and HMAS Vampire, embarked on their mission. Initially tasked with targeting Japanese transports at Kota Baru, the plans were disrupted when the Japanese submarine I-65 spotted the British ships on December 9, followed by detection from Japanese aerial reconnaissance later that evening. With no RAF fighter support forthcoming, and amid reports of Japanese forces landing at Kuantan in Malaya, Force Z was redirected to investigate. Arriving off Kuantan at 8 o'clock on December 10, the force discovered that the reported landings were a diversion orchestrated by the Japanese. At 11 o'clock that morning, the first Japanese air attack commenced, with 8 Type 96 Nell bombers releasing their bombs in close proximity to the repulse. One bomb pierced through the hangar roof and detonated on the 1-inch plating of the main deck below. Following shortly after, the second wave of attack, consisting of 17 Nells armed with torpedoes, arrived at 11:30, divided into 2 formations. Contrary to initial reports, the Prince of Wales was struck by only 1 torpedo. Meanwhile, the repulse skillfully evaded the 7 torpedoes aimed at her, as well as bombs dropped by 6 other Nells a few minutes later. The torpedo hit the Prince of Wales on the port side aft, behind the wide turret, causing extensive damage. It wrecked the outer propeller shaft on that side and caused varying degrees of destruction to bulkheads along the shaft all the way to the engine room. This resulted in rapid and uncontrollable flooding, incapacitating the entire electrical system in the aft section of the ship. With damage control efforts proving ineffective, the Prince of Wales quickly developed a heavy list. A third torpedo attack targeted the repulse, but once again, the vessel managed to evade any hits, escaping further damage. During the fourth attack, conducted by torpedo-carrying Type 1 Bettys, the repulse was struck and sank at 12:33. Additionally, 6 aircraft from this wave targeted the Prince of Wales, hitting her with 3 torpedoes, exacerbating the damage and flooding on board. Furthermore, a 500 kilogram, 1,100 pounds, bomb struck the Prince of Wales's catapult deck, penetrating to the main deck where it exploded. This caused significant casualties, particularly in the makeshift aid center and the cinema flat. Several other bombs from this attack landed very close to the ship, causing damage to the hull by indenting it, popping rivets, and splitting hull plates along the seams, worsening the flooding. At 13:15, the order to abandon ship was issued, and by 13:20, the Prince of Wales capsized to port, briefly floating upside down before sinking stern first. Among the 327 fatalities were Admiral Phillips and Captain Leach. The sinking of the Prince of Wales and repulse marked a significant milestone in naval warfare history, as they were the first capital ships to be solely sunk by naval air power on the open sea, despite the aircraft being land-based rather than carrier-based. This event foreshadowed the diminishing role that this class of ships would play in naval warfare in the years to come. Several contributing factors led to the demise of the Prince of Wales. One critical factor was the inoperability of her surface scanning radars in the humid tropical climate, depriving Force Z of a vital early warning capability. Additionally, the initial damage sustained from the first torpedo strike significantly weakened the ship's defenses. Another crucial factor was the loss of the ship's dynamos, which deprived the Prince of Wales of many of her electric pumps, complicating efforts to counter flooding. Further electrical failures left parts of the ship in total darkness, exacerbating the difficulties faced by damage repair parties. An inquiry chaired by Mr. Justice Bucknell was conducted following the sinking, but the true causes of the ship's loss were only fully understood after divers examined the wreck after the war. The Director of Naval Construction's report on the sinking suggested that the ship's anti-aircraft guns could have inflicted heavy casualties before torpedoes were dropped, potentially altering the outcome of the attack if crews had been more adequately trained in their operation. The wreck of the Prince of Wales lies upside down in 223 feet, 68 meters, of water at coordinates 3 degrees 33'36" and 104 degrees 28'42" E. Since its sinking, efforts have been made to commemorate and preserve the wreck. A Royal Navy white ensign attached to a buoy tied to a propeller shaft is periodically renewed. In 2001, the wreck site was designated a protected place under the Protection of Military Remains Act 1986, just before the 60th anniversary of its sinking. The ship's bell was manually raised in 2002 by British technical divers with permission from the Ministry of Defence and the blessing of the Force Z Survivors Association. After restoration, the bell was presented for display at the Merseyside Maritime Museum in Liverpool and later moved to the National Museum of the Royal Navy at the Portsmouth Historic Dockyard for exhibition in the Hear My Story galleries. In May 2007, Expedition Job 74 conducted a dedicated survey of the exterior hull of both the Prince of Wales and the Repulse. The findings of this expedition generated significant interest among naval architects and marine engineers worldwide, as they provided detailed insights into the damage sustained by the Prince of Wales and the precise location and number of torpedo strike holes. Subsequent reports and analyses by organizations such as the SNAME, Society of Naval Architects and Marine Engineers, and presentations at meetings of the RINA, Royal Institution of Naval Architects, and IMARIST, Institute of Marine Engineering, Science and Technology, further contributed to the understanding of the sinking. In 2012, an updated and expanded report titled Death of a Battleship: The Loss of HMS Prince of Wales, A marine forensics analysis of the sinking was released, incorporating new findings from a diver who penetrated deep into the port outer propeller shaft tunnel with a high-definition camera, capturing images along the entire length of the propeller shaft to the aft bulkhead of the engine room. In October 2014, the Daily Telegraph reported that both the Prince of Wales and Repulse were being extensively damaged with explosives by scrap metal dealers. Currently, it is customary for every passing Royal Navy ship to conduct a remembrance service over the site of the wrecks. In May 2023, reports emerged that a Chinese ship, Chuanhong 68, illegally scavenged the wreck for its low background steel. In spring 2019, Cammell Laird was tasked with creating a replica of the ship's bell for its successor, the HMS Prince of Wales, R09, the second Queen Elizabeth-class aircraft carrier. The original bell, located at the National Museum of the Royal Navy's Portsmouth Historic Dockyard, was surveyed as part of this process. Cammell Laird reached out to Utley Offshore in St. Helens, the foundry responsible for crafting both the original bell and the bell of the RMS Titanic. Remarkably, Utley Offshore still possessed the original pattern based on the 1908 Admiralty design. To maintain authenticity, specially sourced nickel-silver was used instead of the more common bronze or bell metal found in modern ship bells. The engraving work was entrusted to Shawcross in Birkenhead, while Cammell Laird Shipwrights crafted the hardwood base. The finished replica was presented by Cammell Laird COO Tony Graham to Commanding Officer Captain Darren Houston during the ship's week-long visit to Liverpool in March 2020. As we conclude our exploration of the HMS Prince of Wales, 53, we're reminded of its enduring legacy as a symbol of courage, resilience, and innovation in naval warfare. From its construction to its heroic battles, this legendary vessel continues to captivate our imaginations and inspire future generations. Thank you for joining us on this voyage through history. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating content. Until next time, fair winds and following seas. The Animated General. Out.